Hello and welcome to another video. I wanted to talk today about the new World of Warcraft expansion, Battle for Azeroth, which was just announced yesterday at BlizzCon. I watched the opening ceremony and the World of Warcraft What's Next panel, and they gave us most of the new information for the expansion. Now, a little bit of background. I've been playing World of Warcraft since 2008. I started about 6 months before the Wrath of the Lich King expansion came out, and I was playing all the way up until Legion. I started to kind of burn out on it about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, and I started logging in less and less until Boxing Day. I logged in to do the Christmas present stuff that they do each year to get exclusive items and stuff like that, and that is actually the last time that I logged in. So I've not played for 10 months pretty much, and I'm not saying that Legion was a bad expansion. The story for it was decent enough. I felt that the story was a little bit disjointed, to be honest, but it wasn't bad. But basically, the past few expansions we've been fighting these big increasing threats, these big global threats, where the Alliance and Horde have been pulling together to bring down these threats and save the world of Azeroth. So I was excited for the release of the next expansion because there are a lot of different places that the story can go. Even though we've defeated the Burning Legion, which has been one of the main antagonists for the course of the series, there are still kind of like bigger threats out there, and some more like smaller scale threats, but still pretty important in the world and stuff that needs to be taken care of. So the expansion was announced, Battle for Azeroth, and to me, it kind of like sapped away a lot of that enthusiasm, because we've gone back after pulling together to defeat all these like major threats. We've gone back to faction warfare, Horde versus Alliance, in like a major way, and it seems to me to be quite a big step back in terms of the story, basically. Like I said, there are characters on both sides that harbour personal hatreds towards the other faction. More so on the Alliance side, I think, than the Horde side. You've got characters like Gen Greymane, Verisa Windrunner, and Jaina Proudmoore, who all like really hate the Horde. But a faction as a whole, like I said, we've been working together for quite some time, and you know, aside from these little personal interactions, we've essentially been on the same side. Some of the storylines put the conflict to the forefront, but for the most part, they are about dealing with the bigger global threat. So all of that seems to have been pushed to the side, even though there are still major things that are going on. I mean, I won't jump into spoilers, but the end of the upcoming raid has been leaked, and I know what's going to happen at the end of that, and it seems to be a problem which would require quite a lot of attention. Instead, we're focusing on this other thing. There are, like I said, other threats that could be explored as well, like the Naga are still down in the sea, and say we had like a mass invasion by the Naga, like attacking all the shores of Azeroth at once. That would be an interesting thing to do, and that is how we would maybe finally face off against Queen Ashara, who's the leader of the Naga, and do that in a way that feels organic to the story. Instead, they want to be like kind of shoehorning Queen Ashara into this expansion without any real build-up, really, or at least not on the information that they've given us yet. All the information that they've given us so far has been about this this Alliance versus Horde conflict, which is a shame. It seems like something they could have done about 3 expansions back, and it would have made sense. Right now, it doesn't really make sense. From what I can tell from the story that they've leaked, the Horde or someone burns down Teldrassil, the home of the Night Elves, and in retaliation, the Alliance take back Lordaeron, which was once a human city, but is now ruled by the undead and the war chief of the Horde, Sylvanas Windrunner. So that seems to be in retaliation for that. Now, okay, in that kind of conflict, if the Horde did kind of strike first, I can see why that would be something that the Alliance would then go and do. But what would be the reason for the Horde striking and burning down Teldrassil? It just seems an odd place for the story to go when we still have the Naga and stuff with the old gods and the Void Lords, who are like the main antagonists of the series. It just seems really, really odd that they take this step backwards to focus again on that conflict, which is a shame. Like I said, it kind of sapped my excitement for the expansion. Will I still play it? I don't know. I will see what other information comes out in the next few months, because it is probably a good 6-7 months away yet before the expansion actually comes out. There is usually quite a large gap between announcement and actual release. But as it stands at the minute, I'm not that excited about it. A lot of it seemed uninspiring. The trailer that they showed, the features trailer, a lot of the environments look kind of standard and samey. There's nothing that really jumped out at me in a major way. The music itself was actually a little bit uninspiring, which is a shame, because one of the major things about World of Warcraft, which has always pulled me in, is the quality of the music. They really do fantastic music throughout the entire series, and they actually got rid of, I believe it was Russell Brower last year, or it might have been earlier this year, who was the music director, and I'm not entirely sure of the circumstances of why he left, but he's no longer in charge of the music, and maybe that is why the music seems to have taken a dip in quality. I mean, we've only heard like a few tracks at the minute, so you can't really judge it as a whole. But the music that they play so far just seems a little dull. Now, there may very well be a larger story to the expansion that they haven't revealed yet, and I'm sure there will be, but it just seems the start of the expansion. I mean, this battle, this large full-scale battle, will be the start of the expansion, and it just seems pointless that we've gone back to these petty faction versus faction squabbles. It's a bit more than a squabble. It's full-out war. But to go back to that when we've been working together perfectly fine, it just seems like a real shame. I mean, I watched the BlizzCon stream with a friend of mine, and he had a lot of the same thoughts as well. That this was just an uninspiring direction for the game to take, and we were both a little bit bummed out about it. There are other odd things as well that that they released. I mean, the Horde are going to be starting on a new continent called Zandalar, which is home to the Zandalari trolls. Now, throughout most of the World of Warcraft series, we've been fighting against the Zandalari trolls. They are like known as one of the bad factions of trolls, and all of a sudden the Horde are allying with the Zandalari, which seems really, really odd, really strange, considering the Alliance and the Horde have been against the Zandalari for the majority of the game. So that just felt really, really odd. In terms of the gameplay changes, they did talk about some of the gameplay changes. To me, I've always been more of a story guy than a gameplay guy, so I'm sure whatever gameplay changes they make, it will still feel more or less like old style World of Warcraft to actually play through the game. But in terms of the story, I just think they've kind of dropped the ball on this, to be honest. Now they showed the cinematic trailer as well, and I don't want to take away from it. The cinematic trailer is actually fantastic. It's really, really well done, despite the fact that it supports this story, which I'm not really into. The cinematic trailer is probably one of the best ones they've done. It's absolutely beautiful. You've got some really cool moments. Sylvanas destroys one of the Alliance siege machines, and then jumps down it and turns like full-on Banshee mode, and kind of like whiffs of smoke appear around her, and her eyes turn red, and she kind of like kills a few Alliance soldiers with that. And later on in the trailer, Anduin calls on the power of the light to essentially do a mass combat res of a lot of his fallen troops to bring them back onto the battlefield, and that's kind of where the trailer ends. And it's really, really well done. It's really well done, and I enjoy the trailer. It's just a shame that it's coming about 3 expansions later than what you would have liked it to have come. I mean, whatever kind of like outcome this war has, you can't have one side winning overall, because you're going to piss off half of your player base, because half of your player base are playing Horde and half of them playing Alliance, and you can't have one faction win overall, because there'd be kind of like mass garbage fires in the forums, and it would be kind of like a major controversial thing for the game to actually do. But what I can see happening is, from what it looks like, the Horde may end up completely controlling the continent of Kalimdor, because they've destroyed like one of the major Alliance cities in Kalimdor, and the Alliance may end up controlling the Eastern Kingdoms, because they're taking back Lordaeron, which is in the Eastern Kingdoms. So that is how it looks like the end of the expansion will shape out. I mean, not in terms of overall story. I mean, just in terms of this war that they're starting with. So that seems like the most plausible outcome there, rather than one faction winning overall. But yeah, like I said, overall, it seems like there are more important things that the races of Azeroth need to be banding together to defeat, rather than going back to these petty squabbles, which seem to kind of stem out of personal rivalries as opposed to actual faction rivalries. I was actually saying to a friend before the stream started that it's about time in the story where they really ought to do away with the factions being against each other. It's about time that they allowed like cross-faction play, so the Horde players could play with Alliance players and kind of like ally together to kind of like take down some of these threats, which is what they're doing in the story. But I mean, in terms of like gameplay wise, if you could play with those players, then that'd be fantastic, I think, and it would serve the story at least up to the point where we're at the minute. But obviously this new all-out war has kind of like turned that on its head and made that somewhat impossible. So that is a shame. That is a real shame. I'll be looking at the information that's going to be coming out over the next few months, and there may be something that will change my mind. There may be something else that that is going to be revealed that will entice me to come back and give it a go. But as it stands at the minute, no. It's I don't think that I'll be back for this personally, but we'll see. Anything can happen. So that was my thoughts on World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.